You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of Broadband World Forum 2015 from London. And I'm joined now by Neil McRae, who is Chief Network Architect at BT. Neil, thanks for talking with TelecomTV.
You're welcome.
First thing I'd like to ask you, when you get to the office, when you boot up your laptop, what's your number one priority? What is it the job really entails?
My number one priority is really to be the technical lead on networks for BT, and the priority is customers. How do we deliver services that excite, add and give our customers imagination and allow them to use our network to improve their lives, to improve their businesses, to improve everything that they do, and that's ultimately what my job is.
Now, when you come to an event like Broadband World Forum, you go into the exhibition hall, you're surrounded by the latest technology. In the forums, we're all talking about, what's coming next, how far we can push this. How much of your job is like, this is my wish list, this is what I really want, and how much is dictated by the commercial reality?
I think it's probably 50-50. I think there's always a commercial reality of what customers are willing to pay for, what's important to them, and I think there's an interesting debate this morning on what around speeds and what customers are willing to pay for in terms of speed. Is 1 gig more important than 100 meg? It's a very interesting question right now. Often we have to give the suppliers and vendors here a kind of a direction, and we have to work with them. So we do a lot of research, we do a lot of proof of concepts, and then we build cases around those proof of concepts to ensure that is the unit cost in the right place, is the feature functionality there, is this going to excite our customers, is it a me too, what's really going to make us offer something that's much more than what everyone else is offering in the marketplace.
You mentioned gig there. We always have this discussion about gigs, and we've got gigabit here, we've got 10 gigs turning on here. Your approach to the mass market is not to really pursue that headline figure, is it?
I think in areas we have gone down the fibre to the premise route, which is what you typically need to do higher speeds. But I think you have to compare to markets that have gone down in that place. How successful have they been? We have rolled out the fastest fibre network in the world, and that's enabled services, it's enabled customers to use the internet and their network in a much more real-time way, in a way that drives their needs. So, reflect on something like 4K TV. We've rolled that out now and not used the fibre infrastructure, and customers are loving it. It's a great platform. But also many other applications, from video gaming to cloud technologies, where more and more customers on the business side are putting their environments into the cloud. They're able to do that over BT's NGA platform. And as more people do that, we're rolling out NGA2, which is GFast, which will increase the speed even further, but also at an economic valuable position that makes it affordable for customers and makes it realistic for us to roll out. Rolling out fibre to every premise is a big task, and actually we are going to offer fibre to customers who want it, if they're willing to pay for it, which is what happens in places like Sweden. It's what happens in places like Australia as well today.
You're undergoing a number of trials on GFast at the moment, real life, large scale trials. Since the technology has first been developed, it's progressed. We seem to be going further, we're getting more out of it. Just how far are you able to push GFast? Is it a technology that you're convinced will be future-proof?
I think future-proof depends on your point of view. I think if you look at something like the PSTN, when we were rolling that out in the early 80s, what is the future then? And we've made it last almost 40 years, so that's a pretty good investment. Do we think GFast is going to offer value and is going to be valuable for customers for a useful period of time? We absolutely think that. We're seeing speeds around the 300 to 400 meg. We absolutely see a path with some technology improvements to 500 meg and beyond. The great thing about technology is every year it gets better, and actually one of the massive advantages we have at BT is we're not just experts in copper, we're experts in fibre, we're experts in data centre, we're experts in IP networking, and a lot of things that we learn from one discipline, such as optical networking, we lift and we take it to another discipline, such as copper and DSL based technology, and many of those things that we found in other technologies we're able to reuse and redeploy into other technology fields and actually take the capability even further, and that's very true of what we've done with GFast.
One of the big technological changes we're seeing at the moment is rebuilding the network, the new generation of the network using software-defined networking, SDN and NFV. How will that affect BT's network, and how are you going to go about implementing this?
I think it'll affect different parts of the network in different ways, and I think we'll deploy it when we see value in deploying it. So for example, we're deploying SDN in our data center products, BT Cloud Compute, where the complexity of cloud compute and data center platforms really shows the benefit of SDN. It's the kind of #1 use case. Many organizations are doing it. We see value in doing that, but we're actually doing a bit more, not just extending it to our own cloud compute infrastructure, but actually letting customers consume Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services and leveraging our SDN capability so that customers can pick what's right for them, not just our platform. And we want to be platform agnostic. We want to ensure that our SDN solutions enable customers and enable them to do business much, much quicker. And I think we'll see that expand primarily into the B2C large enterprise field to start with. Large banks, large manufacturing organizations, logistics organizations. That's where we'll see probably this roll out first. In our own network, in terms of what we deliver for service provision, we're actually using some of the SDN technology or capabilities, not directly SDN, but some of the configuration technology such as netconfig and Yang. We're actually deploying them into the network now. So we're not using an SDN controller, but we're actually using some of that capability ready for an SDN solution that enables Ethernet, enables broadband. Right now, we don't think some of those technologies are quite mature enough. But we're ready for them when they are, and we're working with all the leading guys, Cisco, Alcatel-Lucent, VMware, Juniper and Huawei, who are kind of pushing the envelope in this space, and actually Cyan from Ciena as well. We're working with all of those guys to try and deliver something that's right for customers. In BT, if it doesn't work for customers, we're not going to do it, and we don't apologise for that.
So you haven't got firm timelines as such. You'll be ready to implement when the technology is ready, when the solution is ready, and when your customers want them.
Yeah, I think we are rolling out some services right now. We have BT Cloud Connect, which is a hybrid network product that is SDN and NFV driven. It has NFV-based firewalls, it has NFV load balancing, it has an SDN controller for configuration. We're rolling that out. We're working with Cisco on that very closely, and that's something we're rolling out now. And some customers are in trials and in proof of concepts with that product. I think everything else will be as and when it's ready. It's kind of like asking me, when are you going to roll out 100 gig? Well, we rolled out 100 gig when it did what we need it to do, when it was priced in a way that made sense, and when the technology was available. And we'll take the same approach on SDN and NFV technologies.
Can I touch on wireless for a moment?
Sure.
As cellular and to an extent Wi-Fi, as the technology progresses and we get more throughput and more coverage, does this affect the whole notion of we must wire to all premises, we must send that wire all to the last mile, or does it dictate we go towards a more nodal distributed approach?
I think if you look historically, we've kind of swung from centralised to distributed. I personally strongly believe in a distributed platform. The more you distribute it, the easier it is to manage, the more scalable it is. And I think that's true for fixed networks, I think it's true for mobile networks. What we're starting to see is much more of alignment of that distribution. So if I think about what we do today in BT, we have a platform called the Multi-Service Edge. It's where we deliver all of our services. Ethernet, it's where we deliver broadband, it's where we deliver VPNs. Increasingly, we're also going to deliver mobile services. We're going to use that platform as what we typically know as a GGSN, and we will serve mobile customers from that same platform. Why is that valuable? Well, actually, right next to that platform, I've got a huge, rich content server. I've got Netflix there, I've got Akamai there, I've got BT Sport there, and I can serve it locally. I can save a huge amount of money in bandwidth costs, but more importantly, the most important thing, customers get a better experience, and that's what's really key for us. So the architectures are coming together. Do we need to have fibre to every location? Do we need to connect everyone via wires? I think it's a balance. I think there will always be a requirement to connect customers directly using a fixed network. In the same way, I think there will always be drivers for wireless. We must remember, if there's no fixed network, there's no wireless network, because those guys heavily rely upon the fixed network to carry their traffic. But what I think is becoming hugely valuable is more and more overlap between the two. And certainly as we move forward, we're going to see a much more converged approach to network services. So whether it's mobile or fixed, actually no one will really care. It'll just be an application on a device that does something that they want it to do, and they don't really care where it is or how it's delivered.
Is this a precursor then to edge computing and putting more and more computational power right at the edges?
Sure. So, we've done a lot of work in that space with our multi-service edge in the fixed network. In the mobile space, they have mobile edge compute, which is kind of the same thing. I have to say we have some doubts about, would you build that to every cell tower? That feels challenging to me. However, would you build it to maybe 1,000 locations? Quite possibly. Actually, I've got 1,000 locations where I've built multi-service edge for fixed. So I think that point where things are coming together is really starting to show, and I think we will see much more mobile. Sorry, not just mobile. We'll see mobile and fixed compute being delivered from the same place and actually used in the same way. And the key thing for us is to encourage the app developers to think about how would they use that capability.
Final question for you. We look at Internet of Things and we look at the projections of vast numbers of devices, some mobile, some fixed, some stationary, whatever. How will this increase in devices affect the network, and what are you doing to support this growth?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of research and proof of concepts on Internet of Things. I think it's a very good question. I don't think there's a clear answer, would be my answer, unfortunately. Probably not what you want to hear. But I think what we're seeing, there's a kind of a variety of topics where you have some controller-based IoT. So, we've worked in a car park arena where you put lots of sensors in the car park, you have a controller that then talks Wi-Fi or talks Ethernet out, and rather than wiring up all the devices in the car park, you wire up one, and then you use kind of radio technology to connect the sensors in each car park space back to the controller. I think that model will be one of the big models. But there'll also be individual sensors. We've worked on sensors that go in refuge bins to tell the local council when to come and collect the rubbish. That's a really difficult proposition because people's houses are all over the place, where the rubbish bins are all over the place. How do you actually build a network around that? Today there is only really one answer, which is a cellular network. The challenge with the cellular network is it's expensive. So how do we drive a machine-to-machine and an IoT capability in the cellular network that's at the right unit cost? And I think that's where potentially NFV and SDN and other open source software may help us in the future.
Neil, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.